what have I learned today? And if you haven't learned anything, you can't go to bed. Learn something and then go to sleep.
I think that's fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for your time and for putting across these really wise words. So thanks, Ricky.
It's a pleasure.
So we've got one last presentation of this long marathon that we've done today before we go into our two incredible panels for tonight where we're going to discuss. And the last person we're bringing on is definitely not the least. So Frankie, where are you? So Frankie has just the most amazing kind of personality, the way he engages with these students, the way he talks about education and all the other things. He has just got such passion for educating the children and making them love what they do. So, Frankie, I hand over to you.
Good evening, Corinne. I'll try to keep it short tonight and not go too much off track. And I'm going to say again, the reason why I'm so innovative is because I learned from you that once you see a tech tool, you've got to play. That's the only way you're going to unlock the possibilities of these tech tools. So I'm going to dive right into tonight's session. I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. Good. And because time is limited, I'm going to start and I'm going to ask you to think back to the COVID-19 pandemic, think of when lockdown first started. And I want you to look at COVID-19, not because it made our teaching very challenging, but look at it as a way to actually create possibility and reimagine and rethink education. So the title of the first slide was COVID-19 and its many challenges, but I decided I'm going to look at this positive because we're talking about positive emotions tonight. And it's important that we look at the pandemic in a positive light, that we see what new things did we accomplish through hardship or this challenge that we experience. The COVID-19 certainly encouraged us to embrace technology even more. And in such a short space of time, we had to completely rethink and reimagine education. And it was and still is a very empowering experiencing. It empowered us because we realized, because of having to think innovatively about things, that we are actually artists, creators, game changers, and forward-thinking innovators. And I want to ask you guys this, and I want to ask you to please comment on the right side or underneath the video. What have you learned from the COVID-19 pandemic that added benefit to education or your teaching? We sometimes forget that we are just working with human beings. Every child has their own challenges and experience their own emotions. And because we're so forced to focus on that dreadful word, everybody dreads that word, Corinne, you will agree with it, the curriculum, we see our learners more as robots and not always, the majority of the time, as human beings with emotions. And just an interesting fact, I read up quite a lot on this, and one of the things that stood out is that the humans on average experience around 34,000 different emotions. So obviously those emotions are broken into basic emotions. So last night, I actually came across a very interesting video that said we are so evolved in terms of technology, we're so advanced in terms of technology, but our emotions have not evolved much. And I think that is where we need to focus our lessons on, bringing EI, emotional intelligence, and mindfulness into the classroom, teaching learners to actually understand why they experience certain emotions. And that also got me thinking, if studies have shown that we can experience 34,000 emotions, how many new emotions are out there that we are not even aware of? So it is very important that we start now with the current emotions that we know of, that we start exploring ways to show our learners how to identify positive emotions, how to understand that it is actually okay to feel not okay, and that you can actually find a plan or follow a plan of action to help you work through those negative emotions. How do we navigate the education waters of emotions? I'm not going to read through all of that for you. All of you can read. I will share this presentation with Karen, so she's more than welcome to share it with you. All the resources in this presentation, the lesson that I did with the kids will also be shared with you guys. So most importantly, to navigate this education waters of emotions, you need to take that step to bring EI into your classroom. It might seem a little bit daunting, especially if you consider there's 34,000 emotions, but it's about making small changes, introducing emotions into your lessons, 1 or 2 emotions every week or every month. And if it takes you 4 weeks to work through those emotions with the kids, for them to truly understand what the emotion means, take those 4 weeks, take your time. It's not about quantity, but in the end, it's about quality. Then the very important step or a note that I want to point out there is that you as a teacher need to be mindful of your own emotions, because you are setting an example for your learners. And this is, Karen mentioned in the previous presentation, that it's about lifelong learning. And you'll see, as you include more EI activities into your lessons, it's a learning curve for you too. You too will be able to recognize why you feel why you do. Some people, for example, might act out. Some learners might act out in anger, but we see it as anger, but it might be an emotion of sadness deep down that we're not aware of. Be open to talk about emotions. Encourage your learners to talk about their emotions with each other, to share, to tell the teachers, to tell the parents when they're not feeling okay. And then the last step that I want to focus on is chill. You need to chill. As much as the curriculum is important, our learners and teachers need to be emotionally healthy to learn effectively and innovatively. If a child comes to school in the morning and he's upset and he does not know how to deal with that anger inside him, he is not going to be able to take part in the class discussions effectively. The child is not going to feel motivated to actually create innovation. And you guys can read through those statistics. The problem that we currently are facing with, I'm not going to read all of them to you. 1 in 4 students are experiencing health or mental health problems. 1 in 7 primary school students are also experiencing mental health problems. And teacher and principal burnout is at an all-time high. What is the impact of that? 1 in 4 students are bullied. The person or the learner that bullies the other children, they don't know how to deal with anger, and that is their way of dealing with it, of getting rid of that anger inside them. And the learners who allow bullying to take place also are not emotionally intelligent enough to be able to deal with situations like bullying, to know how to react when bullying takes place or when they are being bullied. And then the last thing, youth suicide, and this is very, very serious. Youth suicide rates are at a 10-year high. That is shocking. What is the outcomes when we start introducing EI or mindfulness into our lessons? Well, for first, it definitely improves attention, meaning students are more capable of taking in new information. It improves their working memory, their cognitive flexibility, their reasoning, their planning, and also reduces their emotional reactivity. It helps them to reflect why they are feeling a certain way and to think, how can I react in a positive way or turn my negative experience into a positive experience through positive emotion? Then how can you plan lessons around emotional intelligence or mindfulness? The good news is that you don't have to create, you can, but you don't have to create special lessons that only focus on emotional intelligence. You can incorporate it through mini activities in your existing lessons that you do. I'm going to show you an example. Before I do that, when you plan your lessons, the first step, obviously, you will have to choose a topic and focus on emotions that will help learners complete the task. What is the idea around that? It's to give them problems to solve and to actually show them ways to understand their emotions and how this understanding can help them face challenges or complete these challenges in your lesson. Be creative. Turn your lesson into a story. They are not going to feel encouraged or motivated to learn about emotions and emotional intelligence if you don't think of creative ways to give them the content, like through stories, like I said. And humor, by the way, is also a sign of innovation. Very important to use images and creative explanations to reinforce the understanding of the emotions that you are using in your lesson. Very important also, focus on future thinking skills. Content is slowly dying. Content is important, yes, but it's not the most important thing in your lesson. The most important thing is to think about the future. What skills are my learners going to use in the future, like critical thinking, creativity, problem solving, communication, collaboration? So blend emotions and those future thinking skills into your lesson. And the last step is to use additional tech tools or ideas to reinforce the understanding of emotional well-being. And also on the last slide, I've included resources for you guys, tech tools that you can use. There's one tech tool that is phenomenal. It's an application and a web-based program called Smiling Mind, but I'll talk to you guys about that now. Let me show you the lesson that I created. So I created in Google Docs an activity, a worksheet for my learners that focus on skills that we've been doing over the last few weeks, and it was keyboard shortcuts. Now, in my previous webinars, those of you who joined would have remembered Captain Copy and Agent Paste. We took it a step further, and we focused on Control B and Control U to make words stand out. Remember, this is for the smaller grades. So then what I basically did, I used a plugin, a Google Chrome plugin called Kami. And Kami basically turns any PDF document into an interactive activity. Learners can answer questions in your PDF document through video, voice commenting, drawings. I will show you exactly how to use that now. And the installation instructions is in my presentation. I'm talking quite quickly because I want to show you guys the lesson. So after you've created your worksheet or your document in Google Docs, you're going to download it as a PDF and upload it to your Google Drive. From there, you're going to open it with Kami. And your learners can then start completing the questions. And you will see the Kami toolbar adds additional little activities that you can, or elements that you can add to your PDF document just to make it a little bit more interesting. So my lesson started off with tools. I always add an element of problem solving to my lessons because it's important from a young age that we teach our learners to problem solve. So my tools that I gave them to solve the problems here are emotions, the skills that I've taught them, and the tech tools that we focused on. And then I turned it into a story to get their attention, to captivate them. I said, one day on a planet far, far away, lived a friendly alien captain, underline. She could not visit her friend Agent Bald because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I took a current problem and I included it in my activity. Her planet was in lockdown. I then divided my activity into challenges. The first challenge, focus on the skill that I'm trying to teach them. Here they had to copy and paste the names of the two characters in the paragraph above. And they also had to say, what tool will you use to make their names pop? They then went back to the toolbar. They copied what they will use to make the words stand out. That is Control B. So they're going to highlight that section and they're going to paste it into this area. And then the skill that I taught them was to use the keyboard shortcuts. They're going to go back to the paragraph, highlight, copy, paste into that section, highlight, and then they're going to use the keyboard shortcut Control B. So that's a skill that we focused on. Now we're focusing on the emotion. We're teaching them to identify the emotions of other people. The next activity or question set, copy and paste the emotions that Captain Underline might experience because she's not able to visit Agent Bold. So they went back to the toolbar and they could copy and paste as many emotions that had to do with how the character is currently feeling into that section. The rest of it, I wanted them to focus on their own feelings, draw a picture showing how you feel about COVID-19, so they can use the drawing tool and they can draw an emotion, but I did not just leave it there. From there on, I asked them to make a video to explain the feelings that they have drawn above. So it's not only about drawing, but it's about talking about your feelings. We want them to talk about their feelings. So all they have to do is go to the comment section, click on the video, they highlight the question or a word in the question, and they can start recording a video. And the teacher, this is private, only the teacher can see it. So they are confident to share their feelings with the teacher, and the teacher can look back at their comments where they talk about emotions. The next thing is, once again, focusing on a skill and focusing on the emotion. And then I ask them to identify additional emotions through voice commenting using the Kami toolbar. I'm quickly going to scan through this. I've got about 3 minutes left. Just share this part of the activity that stood out was join the Google Meet session with your teacher. So what we've been doing at our school is actually including support sessions using Google Meet with our school psychologist and our teachers, and they checked in on a regular basis with our learners to talk about their emotions, our parents as well. And then our principal, Leanne Williams, she's busy working on a program called Tea with our school principal and the school psychologist, where they will talk to parents about emotions and how to talk to your children about emotions as well. So here the children had to, for example, write the emotions that they feel or their feelings about the COVID-19 pandemic in this area. And then they joined a Google Meet session where they spoke to the teacher and the school psychologist about their feelings. You guys are more than welcome to go through this activity to see how I incorporated EI or mindfulness. The last thing that I want to tell you is Smiling Mind. Now, Smiling Mind, it's also in the resource section in my presentation, is a free website or an application that you can download from the App Store or the Google Play Store that focus on kids' mental health, and that it's very current. Like when you open the website, you can see they currently have programs that focus on the COVID-19 pandemic. Once you have signed up for this program, it will take you to your dashboard, and it divides it into categories. And each category contains free programs that learners, it's like mini courses that learners can do to teach them through video, through music, about mindfulness and emotional intelligence. I'm just going to show you when I go to kids and youth, for example, and there's for the classroom, for people who work, adults. I'm going to choose 10 to 12-year-olds. And the first session is our internal weather, for example. It's 1 minute long. And basically, when you do these activities, your learners, they are able to see their progress. You as a teacher can see exactly how long they've spent on mindfulness per week. For example, when you open our internal weather, we all experience different emotions every day. Learn how mindfulness can help us with the ups and downs of emotions. When you start your session, why it's important in your activity to introduce them to emotions, because when they get to this program, they can already identify their emotions, and it works out programs based on how you feel. So do you feel happy? Do you feel content? Do you feel alert? And then after you've submitted your feelings, it will design a program for you that focus on mindfulness. Thank you, Karen. I'm finished. I rushed through. I wish I could talk to them much more longer. If you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comments section. Thank you.